Is this one of the greatest alpha males in history, or did he just have the attitude of a raging hemorrhoid? Let me give you the tea and then you tell me. Welcome to the story of Ferdinand the Catholic, also known as Ferdinand II of Aragon. He was born March 10th, 1452, and he died January 23rd, 1516. He's the son of Juan II of Aragon and his second wife, Juana, who were both Castilian. His father had a litter of children, but Ferdinand was named after his grandfather. And I mean a litter of children, like he had 3 with his first wife, 2 with his second wife, and then there was a handful of illegitimates out there. And by the time Ferdinand's dad, Juan II, died, he had a very large portfolio of territory he was running and kind of a mixed bag of children to potentially fight over it. So some shit goes down when Ferdinand's a kid, and his dad decides in 1461 that he's gonna lock it down that the kingdom will be inherited by Ferdinand, also known as Fernando in Spanish or Fifi in the Kingdom of Butts, which you are a subject. And then by the time his father died in 1479, that seemed like a no-brainer since he was the last legitimate male heir left standing. And arguably more importantly, he was already married to the Queen of Castile, Isabella. A marriage that had been strategically arranged so the family would have rule in Castile again. And growing up, Ferdinand had a very hands-on education, and a lot of his lessons were teachings from experience. Though it was paired with traditional teachings, and he did particularly enjoy writing, music, and the arts, however, he did have a very stoic and serious demeanor, much like his father. Despite having the charisma of a wet ashtray, he did convince his politically arranged bride to fall in love with him. And he took a bunch of mistresses and had a bunch of affairs, so he must have picked up some riz. And listen, the couple did reap mutual benefits from the union. Isabella helped strengthen her line's claim to the throne by marrying her cousin from the neighboring kingdom, and Fifi got his place at the head of the table at the Castilian court. But that did also come with the headache of having to defend their right to rule in both Castile and Aragon. 2 kingdoms full of nobilities who are just fucking trying it. But it is reported despite all of that the pair had a loving relationship. It produced 5 children, 4 daughters that all became queens across Europe, and a son who died before he was able to become a king in his own right. Though as a husband, he was known to have a tinge of jealousy and put down his wife's accomplishments, just like that dork Simone Biles married, since he always felt like he was off working on these really strenuous political campaigns and she was just at home also working on ruling an entire kingdom and having 5 children. Like, sorry, she can do it all. And just like any insecure man, instead of dealing with his demons, he just unleashed them to cause chaos in his marriage, having numerous affairs and fathering kids up and down the countryside, which made his wife Isabella furious. And he was toxic as shit, because he would act up on her, but then he would literally ride into battle to defend her and her kingdom. And he was said to be handsome and have like calls you good girl vibes, so like, I get it, girl. And like we talked about in Isabella's video, which is in the playlist if you missed it, the 2 of them had a very notable reign, including the beginning of Spain's unification, the exploration of Christopher Columbus in the New World, the fall of Granada, and of course, everyone's favorite, the Spanish Inquisition, which essentially was a ban on all religions except Roman Catholicism, riddled with brutal atrocities, mostly towards those of the Jewish faith. But our next video is literally a whole deep dive on the Inquisition, so we're breezing past it here. And when you think of Isabella and Ferdinand, you have to think of the Reconquista, which was a series of battles across centuries of rising and falling monarchs battling to reclaim territory from the Moors. Most of it had been regained by the 13th century, but the victories over Granada represented the last fall of the Muslim hold on what was otherwise a very Catholic Spain. Meaning this little land grab project that was taking hundreds of years, yeah, they just finished it. And that battle put them in the right place to meet Christopher Columbus. Though we actually don't have much information about how Ferdinand felt about old Chris. And between the 2 of them, Ferdinand was definitely the more live fast die young one in the relationship, and he even got severely injured in Barcelona at one point. However, he would still be the one to outlive his wife in the relationship when she passed away in 1504. His oldest 2 children, including his only son, also died before him. And you heard that right, the 2 oldest kids, the 2 that would be the heir and the spare. The one he had made very strategic marriages for and had planned to take their kingdoms. Yeah, they were dead and his wife is dead, which put him in a really shaky place politically, especially with regards to Castile, with Isabella's will giving the crown of Castile to her daughter Juana and Juana's son Charles after that. But even in her final days, Isabella was not confident in her daughter Juana's ability to rule and was definitely sketched the fuck out about her weird-ass Habsburg husband, Archduke Philip. So Ferdinand decided he was going to fill in the gaps for his daughter in terms of ruling, and the day that Isabella died, he stepped down as king and stepped up as governor. Juana's mental health was definitely in question by a lot of people, especially her father Ferdinand. Philip, however, deemed his wife completely sane and fit to rule, which led to him and Ferdinand butting heads over who had the authority. And eventually, a treaty in 1506 between the 2 of them would see Ferdinand step aside and give control of Castile's government to Philip. But Philip and his weak-ass genes ruined that immediately, and he literally drops fucking dead at age 28. And so Fifi just took his old job back and decided he's actually going to ally himself with France and marry his great niece, who happened to also be the niece of King Louis XII of France. With the plan being, if him and his new wife were able to make a son, then the Aragon crown would be split from Castile and would be inherited by their child. But they didn't, so his daughter Juana was still the rightful heir, which meant that her Habsburg children, specifically Charles, would soon rule Spain, despite Ferdinand making his marriage arrangements with his older two children with his more preferred allied countries. Nonetheless, when Ferdinand dies, he leaves the right to the throne to his daughter/grandson, who are also ruling Castile. And Charles, being a Habsburg, would also go on to inherit crowns from Burgundy and Austria, and would eventually become Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor. And all of this, plus how profitable the Americas are setting the stage for Spain to become a world superpower and military powerhouse for the next 100+ years. And if you're wondering if when King Ferdinand died, if the Spanish Inquisition died with him, it did not. It continued on for hundreds of years, and it was brutal and it was disgusting, and we are going to talk all about it in the next video. So if you want to talk about the Spanish Inquisition, I'll see you in the next one. Spanish Inquisition art.